This video contains spoilers for Loki Season 1, Episode 1, as well as potential spoilers for future episodes and movies if our theories become a little too accurate. After a 1-month gap of MCU content, we have finally arrived at Loki, which is a lot of people's most anticipated Disney Plus Marvel show of 2021. And the premiere did not disappoint, as many of us here in different theories believe that it is the strongest premiere out of the 3 Disney Plus series. But most importantly, in the different theory shows, we're very happy this time because there's actually a lot to decipher from this 1-hour premiere episode of Loki. So let's dive into our theories in another episode of So I guess to start us off, I wanted to just briefly talk about some of our first impressions after watching the series. Like, what's the first thing you're thinking about when you think back to the episode?
I think something that shows that just how complex and just how not black and white this is anymore is at the end when Loki finally answers the question, do you actually enjoy hurting people? And, one-dimensional villain, he's doing evil things. He's hurting people because he enjoys it. But over here, we have another side of it. He's hurting people because he even acknowledges it, that he's weak, and that's just a way to terrorize people and to get power. So it just, again, shows that he's not this 100% psychopath that a one-dimensional early Marvel villain probably would have had, of someone that just wants to do evil, enjoys chaos. But this is just someone that is still obviously doing evil things, but just for more complex reasons that we saw with Thanos and again with Loki. So
honestly, I think the first thing I thought of after the episode ended was I do not trust the TVA. I don't trust them at all. I don't know whether it's all the bureaucratic imagery and the stark brutalist architecture, but there's something extremely suspicious about the whole operation.
My big question is the TVA worse than Thanos? Is the TVA potentially, a big bad beyond anything we've ever seen before? Because it kind of seems that way as an organization, even if the character Mobius seems to have some more interesting motivations.
I definitely agree. Already in the first episode, we see the TVA is already even more threatening than Thanos. They literally have Infinity Stones, and it's practically a joke. And they can practically already do everything that Infinity Stones can do. They literally have it stuffed in a desk, so just even makes Thanos seem even less intimidating now. There was a force all along that's actually even more powerful. And it's just crazy to me. So something this powerful, obviously something is going on, and definitely makes me very suspicious.
During the whole courtroom scene, Loki's like, oh, the Avengers must have time traveled. And they were like, no, that's actually in line with the sacred timeline. You taking the Tesseract was a problem. And I'm like, wait, all the confusing time travel stuff that happened when Steve put the Infinity Stone back wasn't a problem? Interesting.
Here's the thing that I'm wondering. So Doctor Strange said in Infinity War that there was 14 million outcomes to whatever happens in Infinity War and Endgame. Does that mean there are potentially 14 million variants out there? How does the TVA even dictate how the proper flow of time goes? What if there are 14 million variants? How are these agents going to go? Let's capture all 14 million variants of these hundreds of characters that have appeared in Endgame and Infinity War. My second question is, who is considered a variant, who is not? Because technically, right, in Avengers Endgame, we saw 2 different versions of Thanos and Thanos' army. And that includes, Gamora, Nebula, and everyone else like that. Are they considered variants? Because they've diverted from their paths, technically in their histories. But if what Renslayer said was true in the court, that everything in Endgame was supposed to happen, then how do you explain the paradox of 2 different Thanoses going on 2 different paths? So I think either there's something that the show needs to explain, or there's something seriously sus about the TVA. I think the TVA is up to no good. I know I say this in every single series, but I genuinely believe that the TVA is up to no good in this season. But I want to go a little step further to say that the organization itself, as well as its employees, might not necessarily be evil, because I feel how could Casey be evil? The guy who doesn't even know what a fish is, he can't be evil. I feel it's the timekeepers that are the suspicious individuals here. And I have a theory about who I think the timekeepers are, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Are the timekeepers actually destroying entire universes, killing entire universes worth of beings when they prune a timeline? And a more mechanical question, I get that it's a useful storytelling device, but practically speaking, why hold trials? If you're the timekeepers, if you're the timekeepers, like if you're the TVA, why bring variants in and put them on trial? Why not just, clip them, prune them on the spot? I get that it's a fun storytelling conceit, but as a practical matter, what purpose does the trial, the sort of kangaroo court, serve in this society? Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just good television.
I think that's an excellent question, because I feel like the whole sham trial thing, especially when you're talking about variants that from the Miss Minutes video, I mean, theoretically, you could have a variant who was accidentally late for work and then have them show up at the TVA. So why are they trying these people?
Well, and that raises a question about how a variant arises. I mean, my original thinking about it was, okay, a variant is something where time travel is involved and someone, in a time travel context, branches off from their timeline. But how can just being late for work make you a variant unless someone's time traveling around you and you do something that causes you to go off of your timeline? To Harry's original question of how does any of this work with the previous descriptions of time travel in the MCU? My own prediction is that it doesn't, and that they're just going to kind of go with sort of a new version of time travel here. The previous versions of time travel, I think I understand how they work, or I thought I did, but I think my honest prediction is that none of them are really cohesive, internally consistent theories of time travel, and they're fun, and we should have fun, and that's okay too.
I think during that animation, one of the timekeepers looks way too similar to Kang the Conqueror. And we know that in the comics, the whole thing about Kang is that he uses super advanced technology from the future to travel back to times before his civilization to be like a god. Like essentially his science is like magic. One thing that Mobius said when they arrived in Olivia's background was there's no magic, which I assume is science. And who has that science and technology from the future that can really go beyond time? Kang the Conqueror. So I feel like Kang, like Professor Carnes actually said in his version of Loki, Agent of Asgard, which the episode will be coming out very, very soon. I think Kang's probably behind the TVA. Who do we think the other Loki variant is?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I would really like it if it was old Loki, but I feel like it's more likely that it is Lady Loki.
Yeah, I am backing that claim right there because we know that Lady Loki's confirmed to appear in the show and old Loki's not confirmed to be in the show. But I have a feeling that we're going to get a Lady Loki reveal in the next episode, but she's not going to be the villain of this series. I still think the ultimate villains are the TVA. I think Lady Loki's mistaken hero or something. I think they're going to do a scroll twist with Lady Loki in the series.
I think pivoting back to just some events that happened in the TVA during the episode, this is, okay, I'm going to say something. I do not think this is that out there as a theory. I think it's entirely possible. So, okay, what if Steve Rogers was arrested by the TVA? Because everyone's like, Steve is just gone. No one ever says he's dead or whatever. And then we have the shot during the first episode where Loki's sort of being teleported into TVA, and you see another cop come out with a woman who has who's a brunette and wearing a blue dress, which is exactly what Peggy was wearing at the exact end of Avengers Endgame. So I feel like it's a strong possibility that perhaps they were both arrested.
That's such a sad theory, but I love it so much because it just makes so much sense, and it gives us another chance for Chris Evans to come back, because Chris Evans is in a project that's not Captain America 4. What else could he be? Maybe Loki season 2 is Loki teaming up with old Rogers, going on different adventures.
Yeah, I think going off of us talking about the scale of the TVA, this is a much less insignificant theory than my last one. It is off a very minuscule comment that Mobius made about after he shows Loki the whole environment and in my background. Loki says this place is a nightmare, and he goes, no, I'll help you burn down. I'd help you burn down that department or something. And I'm like, well, nightmare as in the Fear Lord nightmare?
Yeah.
I know we're sort of leaning towards this theory about, something in the series happening to where the timelines blow up and that leading into it, but that could involve nightmare. We never know.
I do wish that if they do decide to include Kang, Jonathan Majors, in this series and have him fight Loki, I kind of hope that Kang dies at the end of the episode. But then in an Easter egg, they show us that there are like millions of other Kangs. Like he's just essentially an unkillable villain because there's just so many versions of him. In each movie that he appears in, we get a slightly different version of him appearing in the movies. I think that would be a really cool way to differentiate him from Thanos as the previous MCU big bad.
That's my theory, Harry, about what the TVA is really up to, is about protecting Kang's already existing dominance over the multiverse. It's not that there's one timeline. It's that, Kang is clipping off any alternate timeline because it could, threaten his sort of hegemony. And that's really what the TVA is about. So that's kind of the theory I have in the background. And the one my friend Brandon, the UPS driver who I was talking to, which we discussed earlier, that was his theory that he shared with me as well, is that the TVA, like the big bad in all of this, is going to be Kang, and it's going to be Kang who set up the TVA as a part of his way of preventing anyone else from being able to create an army of themselves. You can't have variant. If Kang already has multitudes, you can't let anyone else do that. You can't let anyone else create variants of themselves.
Yeah, I like that. It's essentially like a mystical version of Project Insight, taking out anyone who could be a future threat. I mean, that's how that explains why like they cherry pick which timelines to eliminate. Like maybe this timeline with Loki escaping with the Tesseract actually threatens Kang's existence in the future in some way, shape, or form.
This just came to me, but I think going off of our theory that this show is going to cause something really large to happen in terms of the multiverses, what if this show is what enables what if to even happen?
Olivia, you're just coming up with amazing theories today. I mean, all of your theories today have been amazing, and I love that because I've been a huge proponent of what if is actually a coherent storyline rather than like separate, like one-off stories. And I think that actually makes a lot of sense.
So is the idea of something like somehow in universe they're watching other universes and they're trying to figure out what's happening there. I love this theory, Olivia. I think that's brilliant, and I jotted it down in the event you want to formally claim it. And I don't think this would even count towards our calculations for Loki because it's outside of the scope of the show. But I do think you should claim that one. I think if we've learned anything from the first two shows, it's that Marvel Studios is being immensely ambitious with their Disney Plus streaming serial content. Their Disney Plus shows. They're not just little side quests. They're not just one-offs to make a quick buck. They're actually really, really intimately tied up. And that's what Kevin Feige, when he said when he announced the Disney Plus platform, he said like these shows are going to, for the first time, truly integrate the MCU with the TV content. And a lot of people took that to be a slight against Netflix shows and the ABC shows. And I think it partly was decanonizing them, but I think it was also setting up exactly what you described, which is these aren't just one-offs. These aren't just side quests. These are going to be each one is going to be instrumental to the universe building. So Olivia, that's such a smart prediction. I think you're exactly right. I don't think What If's going to be an anthology. I think What If's going to be another series.
There's a theory that I read online. Someone on YouTube made this theory. I'd like to expand upon it, but still give credit to the other person. I didn't come up with this theory, but I'm supporting it with my own evidence. So speaking of the reset, I was always wondering what that reset meant. When Renslayer was like, okay, I judge you to reset. I was like, wait, what is that? And they never tell us that in the first episode. And from my understanding, because I saw the episode twice, and the second time I understood what they meant when they say like, oh, we're going to reset the timeline, meaning that they're going to reset the timeline. So there's going to be another version of Loki who's going to be in that 2012 timeline, who's going to live through that entire thing, like just like how history is supposed to flow. Well, this Loki variant gets stuck in TVA forever. He can't go anywhere. And what does reset mean? And I saw this really, really compelling theory. So one of the weird things throughout the episode is like, while TVA I think is evil, I think none of the employees there are evil. Like some of them genuinely don't know what is going on. Like, how is it possible that Casey doesn't even know what a fish is? Like, it might seem like a joke, but I think it really means something. So the theory that the YouTuber has that I'm gonna endorse is that every single one of those employees in TVA are actually variants from different multiverses, from different universes, and reset means wiping your memory clean so you remember nothing about yourself other than the fact that you're a TVA employee. So I think we're going to find out maybe a tragic backstory to Mobius or Casey or any of the other characters that are actually variants, who like maybe Mobius was the guy who was late for work and he just suddenly becomes a TVA employee. That would be like both funny and sad at the same time for the character. So we have came up with a lot of different theories, as always. So I wanted to briefly recap the theories and lock in a couple of theories. I want to start with Olivia because Olivia has just come up with mind-blowingly awesome theories tonight. So Olivia, if you would do the honors.
Thank you, good sir. I suppose I will start with, you know what? I'm just going to throw it out the one. We're going to lock everything I said in. Why not? I'm going to lock in that Steve got arrested by the TVA. I'm going to lock in my theory about what if. I think I'm ready to lock in the fact that the TVA is the big bad. I feel like there's significant evidence for that. Whether Kang is specifically behind it or not, I will wait for it, but I will say that the TVA is the big bad.
I'm going to go ahead and lock in that we're going to get Lady Loki as the hooded figure. And I don't think Lady Loki is going to be the villain of the series. I'm going to go ahead and lock in. I don't want to say this definitively that Kang's going to show up, but I feel like he's going to be involved in somewhat like some kind of event in this series. I think we're going to get like at the least like maybe a name drop or a reference to Kang. And I'm going to go ahead and lock in that theory, endorse the theory that all the TVA employees are variants, and we'll actually find out Agent Mobius's backstory during the season. And I think that's all I'm locking for episode 1. And I'm also endorsing all of Olivia's theories. So like, please just put like a multiply by 2 next to her theories.
I want to really lock in the idea that the allegedly bad variant Loki is not in fact bad. I think that's my strongest prediction. And if you're comfortable calling that distinct from Harry's first prediction, it's really just that let me expand on that a little. I think bad variant Loki is actually some sort of like insurgent trying to counteract the TVA's nefarious scheme. So I think let me lock that in. Bad Loki understands what the TVA is up to and is working to prevent whatever harm the TVA is doing, and is trying to sort of take it down. So I think that's going to be prediction number 1 for me. I want to go a little further than Harry. So Harry says Kang will be involved in some kind of event. I actually want to put forward the theory that Kang is kind of, the big bad of the series, that Kang is behind whatever nefarious actions the TVA is involved in. Whether that was true at the founding of the TVA or not, now it's Kang pulling the strings here, and the TVA is really serving Kang's evil ends. I do want to endorse that all the TVA employees are variants. That's a great idea. I do want to endorse Olivia's theory that this show enables What If, and that What If is a serial. And I think I'll stop there.
I can go started with my endorsements. I also endorse the theory that the person in the cloak is definitely Lady Loki. That the TVA is definitely evil. And then I'll just lock in specifically that there is definitely no sacred timeline, that's just something that was completely fake and made by the TVA. It doesn't make sense with what Marvel has established, and it just, again, explains their motives. And then one thing that I didn't really talk about, but I wouldn't think Mobius is one of those variants. I think he's actually a much bigger part in this. I mean, I know a lot of people, I saw a lot of theories online that think he might be a timekeeper himself or even a Loki variant, which I think is kind of wild. But I definitely think there is a darker twist to Mobius, and I'll definitely lock that in.
What if Mobius is a fourth wall breaking character? I mean, what if he represents the audiences, the MCU audiences, like us in the MCU, given how much he understands the MCU lore and Loki. And that could open room for how Deadpool 3 comes into the MCU and how he is able to break the fourth wall.
Harry, are you locking that one in? Mobius can break the fourth wall.
I think I want to lock that in. Mobius can break the fourth wall.
We've learned nothing from WandaVision. Like, our theories have gone, we started out with the really mundane and now we're really out in a very creative space. I love it.
I mean, even if we don't have direct evidence that Mobius can break the fourth wall, I think there's at least direct evidence that, there's a whole bunch of meta going on with our whole conception of Loki's self and letting him change. And so I think there's definitely real potential for a fourth wall break.
I like these theories a lot. These are some crazy theories, but I really think some of them are going to come true. And even if they're not true, I don't regret making these theories with all of you. So one episode, so many theories. Of course, there are more theories coming out as we go more and more into the season. We'll do a little investigative work. Each episode will be like, okay, so these are the evidences that TVA is evil. I think that's a main theme of this season. So please check out more of our videos in our channel. You can support us by liking and subscribing, and we'll see you in the next episode of Different Theories.